So as we finish up, allow me to say political power is the ability to influence or control a behavior of people or a power. This definition underlines that no one needs to be forced to follow or to behave in a certain way. And for the past 25 years, ZANU-PF has been threatening people, has been coercing them to behave in a certain way or to be influenced in a certain way, simply because if you do not vote for them or if you don't indicate an inclination to vote for them, your farm will be taken, your land will be repossessed, you will be excommunicated for the community. The sub-chiefs, they have been given that power to do that, and over the years they have been practicing it. But here precisely we say pure political power is the ability to influence. It is one's ability to make people behave in a certain way without forcing them. Is to give people a test of yourself, and then you ask them if they like it, and if they like it, then they will be able to follow you. So this is political power. But French and Raven probably have a different political understanding or a political affair when it comes to this definition. And according to them, they say power is that state of affairs which holds in that given relationship. They say power is fundamentally relative. It depends on two people. It depends on A, and it also depends on B. So since it's a relationship, in an affair for a particular moment, one needs to convince B that what A is doing is beneficial to B, and because that is the case, then that actually helps B to behave in a certain way, in a way that does not disturb what A is doing. So in order to maintain that kind of a relationship, A has to or must change or must think to decide in a way or manner that will please B. And in such a manner, B will also be motivated to change based on how A has treated him or her. And particularly also with this second definition, ZANU-PF and its counterparts do not fit, because the relationship has been one-sided. They decide what they want to decide, which does not please A, and they do not care. Look at the operation in Mrambatsina, how many people were left without houses. ZANU-PF does not care. What they actually thought was that they want to clean the city. And yet, cleaning the city, while it's cleaning the people from where they were staying. It's an abstract concept, but they have failed to maintain. If this was a relationship or an affair, I'm sure ZANU-PF would have lost 10 times, would have been divorced. And I don't know why people are not divorcing this party and its leaders out of the system. Now, Gareth Morgan, in his 1966 book called The Image of Organization, he actually says there is the first kind of power, which is called the legitimate power, also known as the positional power. This power is the one that one possesses when he is in a structural position, accompanied by duties or uniforms. An individual on his personal capacity is useless, does not have power. That's what I mean. And when they are given a position of authority, and then they get power, and that power is called positional power. It comes with duties. It comes with a responsibility. And this is the power that precisely describe the power of Zimbabwe, because almost everyone in Zimbabwe who claims to be powerful, who has political power, has gotten that through the channels of the structure of politics that he has been placed into. And those who are out of that structure, they are powerless because they can't do anything. And the second type of power is called referent power. This is the ability of an individual to attract others and build loyalty. It is based on charisma and personal skills or personal traits. So you go there and then you tell people this is who you are, and people, they check your morals, they check your traits, they check your character, they check how you speak, how you put things. And that attracts them to you. And this kind of power is the kind of power which we seek that people must have, which is not biased on parties, but the power that is based on individuals, where individuals are loved because of their traits. And therefore, with this kind of power, if you move away from your trades, you are likely not to be followed, because the people followed your trades, and when your trades changes, and then they are also liable to change. And then the third and the last one that we're focusing on primarily is called reward power. This kind of power depends on the ability of the power wielder to confer valuable material rewards. So if I'm the one who is giving the rewards, then I have power, because you who is on the receiving end, you know that your life is based on me giving you. So the Zimbabwean power tree is based on positional power, where everyone who has been in the tree line holds a certain degree of power. It also is based on who one have been in the party, what position he was holding, or his relative was holding, or holding in a current position. And in this current structure of Zimbabwean power, this is when you realize that people who are in power in Zimbabwe, people who have a little bit of power, or people who think they have power, they are somehow connected to the party structures or to the structures of the current government, and they literally do not have power, but the positions which they hold, which they have manipulated, which they have misused, and is the one that makes them appear as if they have power, yet we know that they don't have it. This explains the reason why the former Vice President, Comrade Joyce Mujuru, is uselessly not influential out of ZANU. It's because she had a powerful position which made her to look like she has power, and yet in actual fact she does not have the power, neither does she have the influence. This also explains the current First Lady's position, Grace Mugabe, who and what she was before she became the First Lady. Who was she? She was anonymous, and no one knew her. She was just a nobody. But because she got married to the most powerful man, and all of a sudden she becomes the most powerful. At least she thinks that she's the most powerful lady in the house. Let me tell you one thing. If she is stripped of her position of the First Lady, and then put on her position that she was before, then she will realize that she does not have power, because everyone's power politically connected or affiliated in Zimbabwe is based on what we call positional power. Given that the position is taken, one will fall from the grace. You look at the small examples of Simakoni. He was powerful when he was in the party, when he decided to went out with the influence of traitors who actually made him to believe that they will back him. Then he became a general and an ordinary mere person. Okay, and then lastly, I will not close this one without mentioning the former VP, Emerson Mnangagwa. He also is useless now. He does not have power. His positions that he holds in the party and in the regime awarded him to look like he has power. He has no influence. He has no power. Now he is a fugitive. How does that happen? The most powerful person in the continent, how does he become a fugitive? That shows, that indicates that he did not have power in the first place, but the position that he held made him to look like he had power. And lastly, we have the puppet and the watchdog of ZANU-PF, Professor Jonathan Moyo. He is also useless without the ZANU-PF, and yet they have treated him like a political prostitute. They have kicked him, they have brought him, they have kicked him, they have brought him, they have kicked him, they have brought him, and so he relies on them so that they can provide to him a dividend of some kind of power, and then he remains on their leash. So since PF national politics is based on permanently abused legitimate power and reward power, there is, however, no room for referent power. There is no room, as we speak, for politics of ability, politics of trade. It does not work in Zimbabwe, and no one recognizes it. It is true that the ground to cultivate referent power in the current Zimbabwean structure, which is howling and preparing to reinstate people, are representing the past, our past, not the future. Changing this course is somewhat impossible. We cannot introduce referent power, it will not be accepted. The ground for Zimbabwe is not probably ripe to accept a politician whose traits or his traits or behavior or his ethics is looking into the future, to lead us into the future. Everyone is looking in the past, and everyone is looking in the past, and no one talks about the present. And so referent power will not apply in Zimbabwe. But since everyone is hanging on the tree of positional power, therefore we come to this understanding where politicians are loved by the people based on what they can offer in this current state and in the future. We're looking for that politics. We're looking for that ground in Zimbabwe where people, they don't vote for a party, but they vote for an individual. Because if ZANU-PF puts a useless person, then everyone will vote because it's the party. If MDC appoints a useless man with no vision for our future, then that person becomes the president, because people vote for parties, they don't vote for individuals. So we're looking for a ground, a fertile ground, where politics dirty is not played, where people are considered based on what they can do, what they can offer, what they want to offer, or what they can or probably will offer in the future. We're looking for a time and a ground, an opportunity where politicians are taken and considered based on what they will do, not what they have done. No, not what they have done. Lastly, let me say this: ZANU-PF and its War Veterans Association serving and those who are not serving in the current regime must realize that we have thanked them enough in the past and present, and will always be celebrated. These cadres must realize that we are not in a war anymore, and their role in government is no more. They represent the past and not our future. They represent the past and not the present. So you hear them talk, all of them, listen to them when they talk. They talk about the party. Here we realize that our people who are related to the past are being chased. Everyone is worried about the past. I am particularly worried about the future. My future, I'm worried about Zimbabwe's future. I'm worried about the economy of Zimbabwe. I'm worried about all the activists that have been in prison. I'm worried about the rule of law in Zimbabwe. I'm worried about the silent constitution. I'm worried about the silent public prosecutor in Zimbabwe who says nothing about the people. He's earning to protect the people, and yet he's not doing anything. I'm worried about the police who have become corrupt. I'm worried about the CIA who work for an individual and not for the regime. So I'm worried about the future, which means I am not part of the positional structure. I am part of the referent power, where I believe that my abilities to lead the country are based on me and not based on the party. And we're looking for that when everything has died, when everything has dried up, when every plan has failed, and when every indication of the past inclination has died. I'm looking for an opportunity where referent power will be applied, where everyone who has obtained a power or a position in ZANU-PF will realize that when they are put in my position, they have nothing to boast about. They are nothing. Every ground I walk in, I have worked for it. Every ground they walk in, they have not worked for it. They took it from whoever who worked for it. This is the Zimbabwe we live in. I call all Zimbabweans in the diaspora, present in our country, that we will not wait for people who have been stripped of power, who are useless, who are trying to use us to get back to their positions, which they will never have, which we will make sure they will never have. We're looking at a Zimbabwe which we will build, and therefore I encourage all Zimbabweans to stay alert and know that in this political structure which is there, they must stay alive, and staying alive means staying away, because there is no fertile ground for fair participation and for fair politicking. All is there is the game to accuse, is the game to charge, and is the game to make other people fugitives, which we will not be part of that. Let them play the old cadre rule, and we will play the new cadre rule when our time comes. Thank you.